Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, I finally saw Rogue One. Good flick. I enjoyed it. Uh, Gritty, dark. It's a dark side of Star Wars. Not the dark side, but darker. No spoilers, but I enjoyed the flick. Um, 2016 is drawing to a close. I've got another cold. Don't feel great. And I want to talk a little bit today about one-shots and little miniature, like four game series, kind of mini campaigns, things like that, and why I don't like them very much. I've certainly played a bunch, but I much prefer a campaign. I've talked about that in the past, given little talks about that, not like really a video or just mention it in passing. And here's one of the reasons. By default, when you're going to play in a one shot or little miniature thing, there are certain classes, if it's a class-based system, or skill sets that are going to be useful, and there's ones that aren't going to be useful. There's and it depends on what's going to happen in this one shot, whether it's going to be some kind of combat heavy thing or investigation sort of thing, or it's a quest, whatever it is. By default you're going to do one thing, and so some characters are going to be very useful. Some skill sets, like let's just say it's a skill-based system, like the Desolation one shot I ran. I didn't give anybody an academic character because they weren't going to be they weren't going to be all that useful. Going from point A to point B. May fun to play in a certain fashion, but they might have one moment where they might actually be really useful. I prefer a campaign because the characters get to develop. They're not one-dimensional. Not only can they improve at whatever skill sets they have and maybe add different skills, or just just forget all that. The fact that you're going to encounter a bunch of different scenarios and moments, and I don't want to say challenges, but just events, circumstances, then they become more of like a real person that becomes useful at some points, and you get to play the character. I prefer that a lot more, and that really doesn't matter what their skill set is. Looking through something like the Leagues of Gothic Horror and Leagues of Adventure book, I have from Ubiquity. There's all different ways that you can create a character, all kind of different spins you can put on them. And so it's some of them are just plain old academic type people, and you may be in situations that aren't so academic, and this guy's kind of like hiding. And there's other moments where they get to I don't want to say shine, but their abilities become more relevant. I like that sort of long drawn out game. And I've talked a bunch in many videos where half the time we were adventuring, we were doing things that had nothing to do with our skill sets at all. I like that. But in a one shot or a little miniature campaign, it's a little bit by default more about what these characters can do in those circumstances. So I've played a bunch of one shots. I haven't played as many campaigns as I would like to, and I've played a bunch of little miniature 3 and 4 session adventures, or little miniature campaigns, and those are okay. But I much prefer the not just character development, but the opportunity to say have the characters experience the world in various different events and circumstances. So it didn't matter what their skill set was. They got to operate as an interesting person in an interesting world. So I don't know what your experience has been with all that, but that's one of the limiting factors of a one shot or miniature campaign. I much prefer a longer campaign because you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So what's your experience been? Anyhow, that's all I got to say about that, and talk to you later. Farewell, princess. Sad.